Hello, welcome back to Access at E3. Joining us today is Marcus, who's the executive producer on the new Need for Speed. Nice to meet you, Marcus. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Need for Speed. Purely called Need for Speed this year. What does that kind of signify? Does it mean you guys are kind of going back to your roots, trying to find out, pure Need for Speed? What's that about?
Yeah, it's kind of, you answered it, right? It's a little bit of going back to the roots, looking into the Need for Speed history of what is that kind of definitive Need for Speed experience we believe, what Need for Speed should be. So last year we didn't make a game, right? So that year was spent trying to figure out, what is the kind of core value from Need for Speed? What do our fans want? We spoke to them, we debated internally, we got up with core values, and kind of got to this blueprint of this is what Need for Speed is, and now we're building it. So what you see this year with this Need for Speed is this is the beginning of the future, if you want, for Need for Speed. It's going to be deep on customization. It's going to have a narrative that kind of pulls you through the experience.
And we saw in the conference that this is the biggest open world you've ever built for Need for Speed. How big is it, and what have you populated it with?
So the interesting thing with this world is not necessarily its size as much as the variety in it. So yes, it's big. It has so many drivable surfaces. We've never had that before. But the variety of downtown city, tight city corners to kind of sweeping hillside roads, kind of what you had in Rivals, and everything in between. Industrial sites, business parks, and as I said, Rivals kind of big, drifty corners all the way down. So I think there's a kind of best of world, if you want, as well in it.
So I guess the interesting thing about racing games is they kind of evolved to have these big open world playgrounds. So how do you balance that, the kind of player who wants to go off and explore and find secret things, and then also the player who wants to be really focused on doing adrenaline fueled races, and how do you kind of balance those two things together?
So you're right. That's not easy to do. Open world game design is hard. It's game systems that need to work together in a kind of organic way, but should be structured so it happens when it happens. You can, that's the way it is. However, though, in the way that we do structure this, this particular game, obviously you can, if you want to go into an event and just go quickly from A to B, there's a kind of story thread for that. If you want to go and explore, the gameplay and narrative elements that supports that. So I do think that looking into how people have played and want to play Need for Speed, I think there's something in this game for everyone.
And how we've seen like a real evolution in how multiplayer in racing games works as well. How does the online component work in Need for Speed? So
this is a continuation of what we call the old drive system from Rivals, where we kind of seamlessly blend between single player, co-op, and multiplayer. We really love that system. We're making it even better in this game with number of players, taking it up to 8, and at the same time we are moving the server side onto dedicated servers. So something that we kind of got back on the first game was the server migration, even though it's a kind of neat way of treating moving servers. It was impacting people's ability to have a top-notch quality online experience. So that's why we do that.
Yeah. And in the EA conference, we saw an amazing trailer actually, where we had real-time footage. And then we saw the car, and all of a sudden you were customizing it there. Yeah. Is that representative of what kind of thing we're going to see in the game, and how deep do these customization options go? Absolutely.
That's one of the, I call that kind of the glimpse into the future, because that's essentially what you're going to be seeing in many more games. That whole total seamlessness and reality. We've been talking about photoreal for a long time.
Yeah.
What you saw there is photoreal, because no one in that audience knew that was a car that's made by graphics.
Yeah.
So that real-time compositing is something that we bespokely have built into Frostbite. And yes, it's going to play a major part in the narrative and how your car is being seen in those scenes.
And so what kind of customization options are available to players? Because it looked like there was absolutely loads, like spoilers, wheels.
Yeah, it's everything.
Yeah.
And the key with this is that when I say everything, this is based upon authenticity, right?
Yeah.
So it's just not randomly, here's a car, let's just make some body kits for it. These are, authentic aftermarket components that we have, structured deals with to make sure it kind of hits the core of car culture. And a real car, that industry is booming. It's interesting, and you know what? There are a lot of parts on a car. And then if you want to build a proper system to support that, you need to have a lot of content. So there's going to be a lot of customization content in the game for sure. But also, being Need for Speed is very important for us to have it accessible. I want everyone to be able to go in there and in less than 2 minutes create a car that they feel some kind of emotional attachment to.
Yeah, and you mentioned the narrative pulling players through the game, and we've seen quite heavy narrative elements in previous Need for Speed games like the Run and Rivals. Why do you think having that kind of narrative element to it is important?
I think what we really want to do is take you on like an emotional journey. Highs and lows, what to expect, what not to expect. The great thing with Need for Speed is that the whole competition, you versus me through Autolog, is really, really strong, but it only lasts that long anyway. And doing entertainment and giving value longer, this is also something that we've heard from our fans. The games we had back in Most Wanted and Carbon. They're interested in getting that story, and the way that we use this is a pretty advanced storytelling of getting you inside real car culture. Yeah. Because each thread in this game is represented by a real kind of car culture hero, which we're obviously revealing later on. But it's going to be an opportunity for you to kind of go into that world, live in that world where they live.
And you mentioned about previously going back to what makes a Need for Speed game a Need for Speed game. So can you give us a couple of examples of the kind of events you've got in there? I mean, we've had like Hot Pursuit, we've got Cops versus Racers. Are we going to see those kind of events? What are we going to see?
I think the easiest way of answering that is go back to what we call the perfect Need for Speed moment, because as we step back and we're thinking about what is this game, what is this franchise going to be going forward, on the whiteboard really quickly we get to, okay, I think the perfect Need for Speed experience is this, that, and we debated that, we spoke to our fans, but Need for Speed, in all honesty, is about going ridiculously fast, sideways through corners, hit some debris in your customized car, being chased by cops, and playing with your friends. That's kind of what that's what we want to craft for you, or you craft inside this world. And we have defined a game for you to be able to explore all elements of that. And yes, you have different game modes to cater for different, some of those different types of play. But ultimately, we want you to put you on a path so you can search that ultimate Need for Speed moment. And
you mentioned, another thing about Need for Speed is also how amazing it looks. And you mentioned kind of the photorealism and Frostbite. Can you give us an insight into what the Frostbite engine has allowed you to do? Because compared to Rivals, it seems like it's a huge visual leap forward.
Yeah, and this it comes down to two things, I'd say. First, obviously, Frostbite is moving on. Yeah. Frostbite now has support for physical-based rendering. Which is fundamentally, making a mathematically correct model, and reflects light and light sources, 100% natural. The second thing is having an amazing art director, really. Yeah. That sets up a strong vision, builds a team, leads the team to be able to pull that vision off, and that's what we have at Ghost.
Have you thought about things like kind of? Photo mode's quite popular now. People love taking photos of their cars and stuff. Have you thought about, implementing that kind of thing in there?
No. Yeah, of course we are. Yeah, we're building these cars, right? We want you to be able to share those cars. We have a really neat system, actually, which we call the snapshot system, which is taking photos of your car at random moments. Yeah. When you do stuff, or when you are in kind of standstill cameras, and those pictures are being exported directly out to the Need for Speed network. Yeah. And if you see that and you go in and you like my picture, I will actually kick reputation back into the game. So we kind of blend that line between real and gaming life there, and it will help me progress faster in the game.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for your time, Marcus. That's Need for Speed. It's looking absolutely awesome. Make sure you check it out. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because we've got absolutely loads of videos up on the channel all the way through E3.